Ever wondered how a simple act of disrespect could completely change two people's lives? This incredible true story shows how determination can flip the script between the powerful and the powerless. If you've ever been looked down on or underestimated, you'll want to hear how one delivery boy's journey from humiliation to triumph unfolded in the most satisfying way possible. Make sure you stick around until the end to see exactly how karma works its magic. Alex wiped the sweat from his brow as he carefully balanced the large pizza box in one hand while navigating the winding driveway of Hillcrest Manor. The mansion loomed ahead, its massive columns and perfect landscaping a stark contrast to the tiny apartment he shared with his mother in the rougher part of town. Just another delivery, he mumbled to himself, trying to ignore the butterflies in his stomach. The residents of these enormous homes always made him feel like an intruder, even though they were the ones who had summoned him. At 19, Alex was working 2 jobs to help his mother with the bills while taking night classes at the community college. His delivery job at Gino's Pizzeria paid just above minimum wage, but the tips sometimes made it worthwhile. Sometimes. As he approached the grand entrance, Alex straightened his pizza delivery uniform, a red polo shirt with tomato sauce stains that refused to come out despite multiple washings. He rang the doorbell and heard it echo through what must have been an enormous foyer. The door swung open to reveal a man in his 50s wearing a cashmere sweater and designer glasses. Richard Harrington, tech entrepreneur and owner of Harrington Enterprises, barely glanced at Alex before barking. "You're late." "I'm sorry, sir. There was an accident on Main Street and—" "Save it," Harrington interrupted, pulling out his wallet. "How much?" $27.50, Alex replied, trying to maintain a professional tone despite the man's rudeness. Harrington lazily extracted a 20 and a 10 from his wallet. "Keep the change," he said dismissively, reaching for the pizza. "Thank you, sir," Alex responded, handing over the warm box. What happened next would burn itself into Alex's memory for years to come. As Harrington took the box, he looked Alex up and down with obvious disdain. "You know," he said with a smirk, "if you had applied yourself in school, you wouldn't be delivering pizzas for pennies." Alex felt his face flush with embarrassment and anger. "Actually, sir, I'm studying business administration at—" Harrington cut him off with a condescending laugh. "Kid, let me give you some advice. People like me and people like you, we're different species. I was born for success, while you—" He gestured at Alex's uniform. "Well, this is probably as good as it gets for you. My pizza delivery boy today, my pizza delivery boy tomorrow." Before Alex could respond, Harrington's teenage son appeared in the doorway. "Dad, is that the pizza? I'm starving." "Yes, Tyler. Our delivery boy here was just leaving." Harrington began to close the door, but paused to add, "Don't forget your place, kid." The heavy wooden door slammed shut, leaving Alex standing there, humiliated and seething. The 2 minutes of interaction had left him feeling smaller than he had in years. As Alex walked back to his battered Honda, he noticed how the setting sun cast long shadows across Harrington's perfect lawn. 6 cars sat in the circular driveway, each worth more than Alex would make in several years. During the drive back to the pizzeria, Alex couldn't shake Harrington's words from his mind. "Don't forget your place, kid." Who did that man think he was? And what made him so certain that Alex was destined for nothing more than deliveries? That night, after his shift ended, Alex sat at the small kitchen table in the apartment he shared with his mother. She was working the night shift at the hospital, so the apartment was quiet except for the hum of the ancient refrigerator. Alex pulled out his business textbook, but couldn't focus. Harrington's smug face kept floating into his mind. Finally, he pushed the book aside and opened his laptop. A quick search brought up dozens of articles about Richard Harrington and his success story. Harrington Enterprises had made its fortune in real estate development and tech investments. The company had started small, but grown exponentially over the past 15 years. According to Forbes, Harrington was worth over $200 million. "Born for success," Alex muttered, scrolling through pictures of Harrington at galas and charity events, always surrounded by beautiful people in expensive clothes. But as Alex dug deeper, something caught his eye. Before his rise to wealth, Harrington had come from a middle-class background. He hadn't inherited his fortune. He'd built it from scratch with a small real estate investment that had paid off enormously. Alex sat back in his chair, a realization dawning. If Harrington could do it, starting from modest beginnings, why couldn't he? The next morning, Alex woke up with a new determination. The humiliation from the previous day had crystallized into something harder, more focused. He wasn't just angry anymore, he was motivated. At community college that day, Alex paid closer attention in his business classes than ever before. During his economics lecture, the professor mentioned a quote that struck him: "The best revenge is massive success." Over the next few weeks, Alex began spending his free time at a library, reading everything he could about real estate investments and building wealth from nothing. He started a small savings account, putting away a portion of every paycheck, no matter how meager. His mother noticed a change in him. "You're different lately," she commented one evening as they ate dinner. More serious. Alex told her about the encounter with Harrington, expecting sympathy. Instead, she surprised him. "Maybe you should thank that rude man," she said thoughtfully. "Thank him? For treating me like dirt?" She nodded. "Sometimes we need someone to light a fire under us. All your life, I've told you that you could be anything, do anything. But maybe you needed to hear the opposite to really believe in yourself." Alex considered her words. Was it possible that Harrington's cruelty had actually done him a favor? 6 months after the incident, Alex had saved enough for his first investment, a small, foreclosed property on the outskirts of town. The house was run down and needed significant work, but he had researched the neighborhood and knew it was on the upswing. With help from friends and YouTube tutorials, Alex spent weekends fixing up the property. He painted, replaced fixtures, and learned basic plumbing and electrical work. The process was exhausting but exhilarating. 9 months after purchasing the property, Alex sold it for a $15,000 profit. It wasn't a fortune, but it was enough to make his next investment larger and more ambitious. By the time he graduated with his associate's degree in business administration, Alex had flipped 3 properties and had enough capital to purchase a small apartment building. He quit his delivery job and focused full-time on growing his real estate portfolio. Each time he closed a deal or added another property to his growing company, which he named Phoenix Investments, Alex thought about Harrington's words. "Don't forget your place, kid." Those 5 words had become both his greatest insult and his greatest motivation. Little did Alex know that his path and Harrington's would cross again, in a way that neither of them could have imagined during that brief encounter on the doorstep of Hillcrest Manor. 5 years had passed since that fateful delivery to Hillcrest Manor. Alex no longer drove a battered Honda, but a modest Tesla. He no longer lived in a cramped apartment, but owned a comfortable townhouse in a respectable neighborhood. Most importantly, he no longer defined himself by the expectations of others. Phoenix Investments had grown steadily under Alex's careful management. What began as small property flips had expanded into a diversified portfolio of residential and commercial properties across 3 counties. At 24, Alex employed a small team of dedicated professionals who shared his vision for ethical real estate development. "Looking good, boss," remarked Sophia, his operations manager, as they walked through their latest acquisition, a former warehouse they were converting into trendy loft apartments. "The contractors say we're ahead of schedule." Alex nodded, pleased. "Did you see the report on the neighborhood demographics? Young professionals are flocking here. These units will be filled before the paint dries." His business strategy had evolved from simply flipping houses to identifying emerging neighborhoods and creating spaces that enhance communities. Each success had built upon the previous one, creating a reputation for quality and vision that was beginning to turn heads in local business circles. One evening, Alex was reviewing financials in his office when his phone rang. It was James Chun, a commercial real estate broker he occasionally worked with. "Alex, I got something interesting on my radar," James said, without preamble. "A large commercial property just hit the market. Prime location, distressed sale situation. The owner needs to liquidate quickly. What's the catch?" Alex asked, immediately suspicious of anything that sounded too good to be true. "The price point is high, higher than your usual acquisitions, but the potential return is substantial. Send over the details." Alex replied, his interest piqued despite his caution. When the email arrived minutes later, Alex nearly spilled his coffee. The property in question was Harrington Plaza, a gleaming office complex in the heart of downtown, owned by none other than Richard Harrington's company. Alex quickly called James back. What's the story here? Why is Harrington selling? James lowered his voice, though they were on a private call. Word on the street is that Harrington Enterprises is in trouble. Bad investments, a failed expansion into tech manufacturing, and rumors of some regulatory issues. They're quietly offloading assets to cover debts. Alex leaned back in his chair, absorbing this information. And they need a quick sale? Very quick. I've heard they have creditors breathing down their necks. It's not public knowledge yet, but it will be soon. After ending the call, Alex stayed in his office late into the night, poring over every detail of the Harrington Plaza property. The price was indeed steep. It would require pooling most of Phoenix Investments' liquid assets and securing additional financing. But the location and quality of the building were undeniable. If he could secure reliable tenants, the returns would be substantial. Yet it wasn't just a business opportunity that tempted Alex. There was something poetic about potentially acquiring a property from the man who had once told him to remember his place. The next morning, Alex called an emergency meeting with his executive team. This is riskier than our usual moves, warned Marco, his financial advisor. It would tie up a lot of our capital. But the potential upside is enormous, countered Sophia. Properties like this rarely become available, especially at distressed prices. After hours of debate and number crunching, Alex made his decision. We're going for it. James says we need to move fast before others catch wind of Harrington's situation. The next 2 weeks were a whirlwind of activity. Alex secured financing from a combination of banks and private investors who had come to trust his business acumen. He assembled a team of lawyers to scrutinize every aspect of the deal, determined not to miss any hidden problems. When the day came to submit the offer, Alex felt a strange mixture of excitement and trepidation. This was by far the biggest move of his career. If it succeeded, Phoenix Investments would leap to a new level. If it failed, years of careful growth could be jeopardized. 3 tense days later, James called with the news. Harrington Enterprises had accepted their offer. The deal would close in 30 days. As Alex hung up the phone, a small smile played across his lips. He wondered if Richard Harrington had any idea who was by his property. The closing meeting took place in a downtown law office. Alex arrived early, dressed in a tailored suit that projected quiet confidence rather than ostentation. He chatted amiably with his lawyers while they waited for the Harrington Enterprises representatives to arrive. When Richard Harrington walked into the conference room, Alex recognized him immediately. The years had not been kind to the older man. Harrington's face was lined with stress, his once imperious posture slightly stooped. He was flanked by lawyers and executives who wore expressions of grim resignation. Harrington barely glanced at Alex as they took their seats. Clearly, he had no recollection of their previous encounter. To him, Alex was just another businessman in a room full of businessmen. As the meeting progressed and documents were signed, Alex maintained his professional demeanor. This moment wasn't about petty revenge. It was about business. Still, when it came time to sign the final papers, Alex couldn't resist a small acknowledgement of the journey that had brought him here. Mr. Harrington, he said, extending his hand across the table after the last signature was in place. I believe we've met before. Harrington frowned, clearly trying and failing to place Alex's face. Have we? I apologize. I meet so many people in this business. It was in a different context, Alex replied smoothly. I delivered a pizza to your home about 5 years ago. You told me to remember my place. The color drained from Harrington's face as recognition dawned. For a moment, the conference room was utterly silent. Life takes interesting turns, doesn't it? Alex added, his voice free of malice. Harrington recovered quickly, forcing a tight smile. Indeed it does. Congratulations on your advancement. The meeting concluded shortly afterward. As Alex watched Harrington and his team file out of the conference room, he felt no triumph or gloating satisfaction, only a quiet validation of the path he had chosen. With Harrington Plaza now under Phoenix Investments' umbrella, Alex faced new challenges. The building had been neglected as Harrington Enterprises struggled financially. Several tenants had left, and maintenance issues had been deferred. Alex and his team worked tirelessly to revitalize the property. They renovated common areas, implemented energy-efficient systems, and launched an aggressive campaign to attract new tenants. Alex's reputation for creating positive relationships with tenants proved invaluable as word spread about the plaza's new management. A proposition? Alex raised an eyebrow, curious despite himself. After everything that had happened, he couldn't imagine what Harrington might want from him. Harrington clasped his hands together on the table, his signet ring, once a symbol of his wealth and power, now seeming more like a relic of a bygone era. "I want to work for you." Alex blinked in surprise. Of all the things he'd expected Harrington to say, this was nowhere on the list. "You want to work for me?" "I know it sounds absurd," Harrington admitted, a hint of his old pride flashing across his face before fading again. "But Phoenix Investments is growing rapidly. You've done in 5 years what took me 15. And the truth is, I need a job." The irony wasn't lost on Alex. Here was the man who had once looked down on him, now asking for employment. It would be so easy to savor this moment a complete role reversal, to remind Harrington of his own words. "Don't forget your place." But as Alex studied the older man's face, the new lines of worry, the humble demeanor, he felt no satisfaction, only a strange sense of compassion mixed with wariness. "Why would I hire you?" Alex asked directly. "Your company is failing. Your reputation in the business community is damaged. What could you possibly offer Phoenix Investments?" Harrington didn't flinch at the blunt assessment. Experience, connections, and lessons learned the hard way. He paused, taking a sip of his now-cold coffee. "I made terrible mistakes, Alex. Arrogance led to reckless decisions. I expanded too quickly, trusted the wrong people, and forgot the fundamentals that made me successful in the first place." "That doesn't sound like a great job pitch," Alex replied, though his tone had softened slightly. "I'm not selling you a perfect record. I'm offering you a cautionary tale with 20 years of industry knowledge attached," Harrington countered. "Every mistake I've made is one you won't have to make yourself." Alex sat back, considering. There was a certain logic to it. Moreover, hiring Harrington would be a power move that would raise eyebrows throughout the business community. It would cement Phoenix Investment arrival as a major player. "What exactly did you have in mind?" Alex asked. "Advisory role. Consulting on larger acquisitions. I still have relationships with investors and property owners that could benefit your company." Harrington hesitated before adding, "I'm not asking for a top position or an executive title. I understand I need to earn my place." The phrase hung in the air between them, charged with meaning. "I'll think about it," Alex finally said. "No promises." Harrington nodded, relief visible on his face at not being immediately rejected. "That's all I can ask." As they parted ways outside the cafe, Alex felt strangely unsettled. The universe had handed him the perfect opportunity for karmic justice, yet something held him back from either embracing it fully or rejecting it outright. That evening, Alex called his mother, as he often did when facing difficult decisions. After explaining the situation, he asked, "What would you do?" His mother was quiet for a moment before responding. "What would hiring him do for your business?" "Potentially a lot," Alex admitted. "He made serious mistakes, but he does have knowledge and connections that could be valuable." "And what would it do for you personally?" Alex considered this. "I'm not sure. Part of me wants to turn him down, to let him feel what it's like to be dismissed and underestimated. But another part recognizes yourself in him," his mother suggested gently. "What?" "No," Alex protested. "We're nothing alike." "Aren't you?" "Both driven, ambitious. Both building businesses from relatively humble beginnings." She paused. "The difference is that you haven't forgot where you came from. Maybe he needs someone to remind him." After the call ended, Alex found himself standing at the window of his townhouse, looking out at the city lights. His mother's words resonated in a way he hadn't expected. Was there a lesson here beyond simple revenge or triumph? The next morning, Alex arrived at his office earlier than usual. He had made his decision during a restless night, though he wasn't entirely sure it was the right one. He called Harrington and offered him a 6-month contract as a consultant, not an employee, with clear performance metrics and expectations. If it works out for both of us, we can discuss something more permanent, Alex explained. But I need to see results first. Harrington accepted immediately, the relief in his voice palpable. You won't regret this, Alex. I'll prove my worth. I hope so, Alex replied, because I'm still not entirely sure why I'm doing this. The news of Richard Harrington joining Phoenix Investments as a consultant created exactly the stir in business circles that Alex had anticipated. Some praised it as a brilliant strategic move. Others questioned Alex's judgment in bringing on someone whose company was in decline. The first weeks of the arrangement were awkward. Harrington clearly struggled with his diminished status, occasionally slipping into his old authoritative manner only to catch himself. Alex's team watched the dynamic with curious eyes, wondering how this unusual partnership would play out. But gradually, something unexpected began to happen. Harrington, free from the pressures of running his failing company, began to demonstrate the business acumen that had made him successful in the first place. His insights on potential acquisitions proved valuable, and his industry connections opened doors that might have otherwise remained closed to Phoenix Investments. For his part, Alex found himself learning from Harrington's experience while also helping the older man rediscover the fundamentals he had lost sight of over the years. Their working relationship evolved into something resembling mutual respect, if not quite friendship. 3 months into consulting contract, an unexpected opportunity arose. A massive residential complex called Hillcrest Estates, located adjacent to the exclusive neighborhood where Harrington's mansion stood, came on the market. The price was steep, but the potential was enormous. We should move on this, Harrington advised during a strategy meeting. The location is unparalleled, and the current owners have mismanaged it badly. With the right renovations and marketing, the value could double within 3 years. Alex trusted Harrington's assessment, but the acquisition would require more capital than Phoenix Investments had readily available. "We need partners on this one," he mused. "I might be able to help with that," Harrington offered. "Some of my former investors are still willing to work with me, especially if it's through a stable company like Phoenix." The deal came together over the next few weeks. With Harrington's connections and Alex's reputation for successful property turnarounds, they secured the necessary financing. Phoenix Investments purchased Hillcrest Estates in what the local business journal called the real estate coup of the year. As they toured the property after closing, Harrington grew quiet, his expression thoughtful as he gazed across the landscape grounds toward the neighborhood where his former mansion stood. "I sold it, he said, following Alex's gaze. "The house. It was too big for just me anyway, after my wife left and Tyler went to college." Alex nodded, unsure how to respond. It seemed Harrington's fall had been personal as well as professional. "I'm in a condo now," Harrington continued. "It's actually a relief. All that space, it was just for show anyway." As they walked the grounds, discussing renovation plans, Alex realized how dramatically their roles had shifted. Now he was the one making the major decisions, with Harrington offering advice rather than commands. 6 months passed quickly. As Harrington's consulting contract approached its end, Alex called him into his office for the evaluation they had agreed upon at the outset. "The numbers speak for themselves," Alex began, gesturing to the report on his desk. "Your contributions have been significant. The Hillcrest Estates acquisition alone has positioned us for major growth." Harrington nodded, his expression betraying uncertainty about where this conversation was heading. "I'd like to offer you a permanent position," Alex continued. "Director of Strategic Acquisitions. You'd report directly to me, with a team of your own." Relief and something like gratitude flickered across Harrington's face. "I'd be honored to accept." "Before you do," Alex said, leaning forward, "I want to make something clear. This isn't about humbling you or some kind of revenge for how you treated me years ago. That's not who I want to be, and it's not the kind of company I want to build." Harrington met his gaze steadily. "I understand, and I'm grateful for the second chance. We all deserve those sometimes, Alex replied. Just remember where you came from, both the success and the failure. They're equally important lessons. As their partnership solidified over the following year, Phoenix Investments continued its upward trajectory. The Hillcrest Estates renovation became a showcase project, transforming an aging complex into a modern, vibrant community while maintaining affordability for a portion of the units, a priority Alex insisted upon despite higher potential profits. One evening, as they finished a late meeting at the Hillcrest Estates construction site, Harrington paused by his car. My son is coming to visit this weekend. He's interested in real estate now, thinking about his career options. That's great, Alex said sincerely. I was wondering if you might have time to meet with him, Harrington continued, a hint of vulnerability in his request. He could learn a lot from you. Alex smiled at the irony. I'd be happy to. Maybe I'll share the story of how I got started. Harrington winced slightly, but then laughed. Please do. It's a lesson he should hear. As Alex drove home that night, he reflected on the strange journey that had brought him here. From delivery boy to real estate developer, from being mocked to becoming a mentor, the road had been neither straight nor easy, but standing at this point, he wouldn't change a step of it. The next morning, Alex arrived at his office to find a small package on his desk. Inside was a framed quote, "Success is not final. Failure is not fatal. It is the courage to continue that counts." A note from Harrington was attached. Thank you for having the courage I almost lost. Your landlord and friend, Richard. Alex placed a frame on his desk, a reminder not of his triumph over Harrington, but a more important victory, the one over bitterness and the temptation to define himself by others' expectations. Outside his window, the Phoenix Investment sign gleamed in the morning sun, casting a shadow across the sidewalk where people from all walks of life went about their day, each carrying their own dreams and potential, just as he had done years ago, delivering pizzas and being told to remember his place. He had remembered it, and then he had transcended it, not just through wealth or position, but through the wisdom to understand that true success was measured in more than just dollars and properties acquired. It was measured in lives improved, including, surprisingly, that of a man who had once looked down on him. And perhaps that was the greatest victory of all.